All right, guys, we got another podcast for you, The Doom of Fools. We have another special guest, probably top 10 CDH player, and I don't even think, I know he's humble, he's not going to say that. Statistically wise, this guy's insane, and I can't wait for you guys to get some knowledge from this guy. Max P, what's going on, Max P?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing? Nice to be here. Nice to be part of this.
In today's pod, we're going to talk about a little bit of his background. He just did the big invitational. Maybe talk about some Tymna, Jeska later. So let's get into it, Max. What is your background in Magic? I'm sure everybody wants to know. When did you start playing Magic? How'd you get into it?
Oh, dude, I'm an old man. I started playing Magic back in the 90s, back in like when it first came out. So 94, 95, when I was in high school, I was playing Magic. We used to skip class and hide in the there's like music practice rooms in the high school. We'd go hide in there and play Magic. So that's how I got started. And then when Fallen Empires came out, I quit because the set was so trash. I was like, I don't want to play this game anymore. So I quit. I sold all my dual lands for $8 a pop and gave up the game. And then, I guess about, dude, $8 a pop. I had full sets of every one of them. Dude, the funny thing is the guy I sold them to is still a friend of mine. So, like, I went and bought back a Bayou from him. But the thing is, like, the way we kept our cards back then, it was in a box and it was rubber banded with a bunch of other cards, and there's like Cheeto dust all over it. But I still bought it back from him for like $100.
You used to put your unsleeved cards in a box and shake the box and shuffle them.
Pretty much. I mean, my cards were so messed up. It was crazy. But yeah, I quit after Fallen Empires, and then grew up, went to college, had a wife and kids, and then one day my oldest son brought home a pair of dual decks, and I was like, I remember this game. And then next thing you know, dude, fell all the way back into the hole, and I found my way to CDH by just being more and more degenerate with my casual friends, until eventually I crossed over the line into CDH. I don't even remember what year it was. It was Ixalan when Ixalan and then Rivals of Ixalan came right after. That's when I came back. So I don't know when that was. That was I want to say I think it was even before that. I think it was I want to say 2013. I want to say.
Well, I'm still
maybe not.
I've only been playing for years, so people ask me, and I'm like,
Yeah. It was 2017. There it is, September 2017.
And don't tell my wife I was right for once.
Nope, you called it.
Hilarious. So that's cool. 2017. So you were a big Magic player, and then you're like, Fallen Empire sucks like everybody else. You quit. You had a kid, and your kid's like, hey, Dad, play with me. And now here you are, top 10 CDH player.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good, just a good thing to be into. It's good for your brain, just make you work, keeps you young, especially all these 20-year-old players who just remember everything, and I'm like, shit, I gotta write things down.
Right?
I'm telling you, man.
What are you doing, Gramps, with your notepad? And I'm like,
exactly.
And write me okay.
Yeah.
I don't trust the.
What's the other stuff in writing? I don't know what she's talking about. Other stuff. I'm not writing anything down. I'm not writing down my plan for the next turn. I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? Just so I don't forget.
And at the end, I'll show my notes. It's just doodles.
Yeah. Nobody knows what I wrote. I can hand it to you. You could read the whole thing. You have no idea what you read. Trust me. You have no idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. So I want to get a little bit into so everyone tells me you're the Florian guy.
Yep, I'm a Florian guy.
I've never played Florian, but yesterday I was play testing your deck. And dude,
oh really?
That deck is. I'm on a Cruel Claw right now, and I love casting big stupid things and having card advantage for no reason. So Florian, when I was playing it, I like the idea of the deck, and I kind of okay, it's so much card advantage. Once it's rolling, obviously you're not in blue. Once it's rolling for me, I was doing really good. I just wasn't sure how to it was the mana. It's okay, I have a Period of the Abyss, but I need still 7 mana for Period of the Abyss. For Cruel Claw, if I just tutor on top, I cast it for free. So could you deep dive a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, so I'll give you a little history first. So I started playing it because I was playing Blue Farm, and it got spoiled. And I was like, this card actually looks like it might have some legs. And a buddy of mine who I play with all the time was like, no, it doesn't. That card sucks. I bet you won't build it. And me, like, you tell me I'm not going to do something, dude, it's over. I'm doing it. So I went all in and built it, and was shocked at how good it is, because that card velocity that it gives you is for real. And then the other thing is, it just so happens that there's all these treasure enablers in the format. You got your professional facebreaker, you got your Grim Hireling, you got your Ragavan. So you can set up a game plan where you're swinging for combat all the time, and you're generating card velocity with your commander, and you're generating resources by the virtue of those creatures themselves, right? Which creates a nice little strategy that you could really build on. And that's really the formation of the deck itself. And then from there, you get to run all the explosive, Rakdos traditional win lines. You can run Bolas's Citadel, right? You can do Adnazes, you can do Peer into the Abyss, you can do Underworld Breach. And then the only thing the deck is really missing is the strong finisher. And, just like blue decks have, Thassa's Oracle, which is kind of a shitty card by itself, Florian has Aetherflux Reservoir, which does a lot of the same things. And then you have all your Praetor's Grasp and other ways to get to wins if for some reason you don't have Aetherflux. So the deck is real strong. Like it's a very strong deck. It does a lot. It's a little tough right now just because there's so many draw engines in the format that every table you sit at, you're jamming into, a Rhystic, a Mystic, an Esper Sentinel, Polyrog Prodigy, Talion, Tymna Crom. Like it's impossible to find windows the same way you could a few years ago. And I think that's really the problem right now.
Listen to podcasts as I can. I think someone said last week, you're like, you know what? Max B called it when I asked him 6 months ago. You were like, yeah, it's all going to be about your engines. I'm pretty sure it was you.
It was Samurai Dancer, dude. It was Samurai Dancer who said that, because he did the top 10 preview for the Invitational, and he put me at number 4, which is a total kiss of death, right? He put me that high, like I'm like, nah, I'm scared.
Yeah, right before the.
I still like Florian a lot. Like I just, at some point I got to free up the brain space to work on other things, and I haven't played it in a while, and I think it's time to move on.
Would you give this to like a beginner or someone getting into tournament CDH, or do you think this is more like kitchen table right now? What do you think?
You mean Florian specifically? I would not. I don't think it's a good deck for a beginner, because you're playing without blue, which means you really have to be a surgeon, and you really have to read your opponents to find windows. The joke I always make is, when I play Florian, I don't play blue, but I play blue players, right? You have to be able to figure out the blue players at the table and what they're holding on to, and whether they have the pieces to stop you or not. And if you can't read that and you can't figure that out, you're gonna have a hard time. So I would not give it to a beginner. But I will say that I think people who are working their way up, it's a great deck to pick up and really work with, because it forces you to learn how to find windows in ways that blue decks don't. Does that make sense?
So let's talk about it a little bit before we get into the Invitational. So 2024, you have a 58.82 conversion rate and a 34.55 win rate. Dude, that's awesome. You're probably the best player I've ever talked to. How did you get there? And is it as easy as it looks? Like, what's the kind of preparation for tournaments? And 60% of the time you go, you're top 16ing, dude. I think I've been to 11 tournaments and I haven't top 16 yet, like big tournaments. So can you kind of help us casual CD get into tournaments a little bit? Mindset.
I mean, I'll be honest, bro. Every time I go to a tournament, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do well here. There's no way I'm going to do anything. Like, how am I going to win? What does my deck do? I forget everything. I'm like a nervous wreck before every single tournament. And like my mantra, literally what I say to myself when I walk in the door is like, all right, step one, and just don't embarrass yourself. I mean, that's how I walk into every single tournament. I get all nauseous and everything, dude. It's crazy. And then things settle down. Yeah, I really do. I have such a hard time. And then after round one, everything sort of settles down, and I dial in, and it's cool because I feel like I turn into a different person in a tournament than I do when I'm playing outside of a tournament. Like I get so intense and like I'm I'm talking more. I'm into it. I'm watching every interaction. Like it's a weird transformation, and it's like an adrenaline rush. I feel like I'm jumping out of a plane. That's how it feels. I get crazy. I do. I get so into it. It's crazy. But in terms of prep, I just grind a lot. Like I have a lot of friends who I just jam as many games as I can all the time, and try to get them to play decks that I want to practice against, and I play decks that they want to practice against, and we just get lots and lots of reps in, and spend a lot of time agonizing over card choices in the deck, and just that's what we do.
Okay, yeah, that's probably what I'm feeling at, is like I'm not playing as much as I should, like at all, like a little bit. Like, yeah, I can do all the research I want, but if you're not getting in those pods, I'm totally with you. I would love to get you in our Discord soon. Places filled.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'll be down for that for sure.
This weekend, 4 or 5 of us, we're going to the Boyle.
Oh, nice.
Like we're all like decent, we're good, but we don't have somebody like you, right? That you could probably just teach us by showing us. That'd be really cool. But we'll talk about that later. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down to play anytime. We can figure that out for sure. Like the more the better. The other thing I do, I'll say this is like when I make mistakes, I write them down. So when we're practicing and going through reps and things, if I make some stupid punt, which I do a lot, I write it down, and then for some reason, like I guess just the way my brain works, if I write something down, then it gets locked in, and I remember it. For example, I'll give you an example. This is a little bit more than writing it down, but at the Top Deck Expo, I went for a Thassa's Oracle Tymna pack line, and everyone was gassed out at the table, and I'm like, I'm clear to go, I'm fine, no problem. And I go to my turn, and I rip off the top. I rip a Mox Opal that I had no use for, did not need at all, but I cast it anyway because why not? And then I go Thassa's Oracle, then I go Tymna pack, Mindbreak Trap, right? Where I could yeah. So it's like things like that. I'm like, okay, they always have Mindbreak Trap. Just write that down. They have Mindbreak Trap in their hand at all times, and just remember that, and just play accordingly. That kind of thing.
Like a Mox Opal token or something when you reach in your back. You like,
Better than that. So, Gold Sabertooth, for those who don't know, is a great artist in the community. Took a Mox. He took a foil Mox Opal, and he altered it to put the background art as Mindbreak Trap art. So, oh yeah. So I have it in my deck. So whenever deck I play in a tournament, my Mox Opal is that Mox Opal.
No way. So you draw and you're like, oh yeah, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to the Boyle too?
I am not going to the Boyle because I'm going to the European CDH Championship the week after, and my wife is not going to let me go to both. That's just not. I offered my wife, like, you can come with me. She's like, no, I can't get off work. I'm like, okay.
Kids on a plane, especially if it's one parent. I'd rather cast back.
Yeah, exactly. All 3 of my kids play CDH, by the way.
Oh,
it's pretty cool. Yo,
he's almost 12 now. He has a casual dinosaur deck. He's not there yet with the CDH, but he loves his dinosaur deck. All he wants to do is cast his stupid Pantalaza. And I was like, I get it. Discover's broken. Get out of here.
Hey man, Pantalaza was at the Invitational, dude. It was one of the 64 decks. Was Pantalaza. Spooky's a good dude. You should have him on the show, dude. He's a good player.
I was hoping when I go to the Boyle, I can get some. I've talked to Zane in person, but I don't have like his Discord. You know what I'm saying? I'd love.
Oh yeah.
He and the guy that you had on, the Tameshi player.
Oh yeah, Jason. Yeah, he's a good dude.
I'm trying to get. It's a Magic podcast, but I mainly want to do like CDH. I'm glad I get to talk to. We could talk to you. It's really like me, like 7 of my friends, and we just geek out. Holy crap! You're talking to Tyler. You're talking to Max P.
That's awesome. No, that's fun, dude. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that'd be dope. So let's get into it, man. The Invitational.
Yeah.
I can't fathom this best 64 players in the world in one room fighting over one spot. Did you have any like preparations for that? I just that walking in there, like, how do you said like a regular tournament where you're jittery and you don't want to, make a mess of yourself. That was last weekend, dude. How'd you do that? And how was it? Was it fun? Was it really stressful? Was it aggravating? I haven't looked at this. How'd you do?
Bad. I should add it real bad, but I did not do well, unfortunately. What's funny is because, going into that one, I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel stressed. I wasn't nauseous. I was like, I'm cool. I'm confident. I'm collected. I'm prepared. And then I went in there and punt, misplay, punt, misplay. Just play like crap. It was amazing. So, maybe those nerves are like a good thing for me because I just did not do well. And I spent months prepping for this. I have a spreadsheet of every player of the 64 and what deck they're likely to play, what decks they're known for playing. I've went and looked through the decks. I've had friends play those decks against me. Like I put a lot of prep and effort into it, and it did not pay off. And, the decks I ran into were not what I expected. I was expecting everything to be, fast, turbo. And then I started running into stacks almost right out of the gate, which I was not prepared for. And, I didn't do well. So, it is what it is. Like you said, it was like an honor. Every single table I sat down at, I'm like, oh my God, I'm playing against this guy. I know who this guy is. I know what he's capable of. Holy crap. Every single round was like that. I felt like every game was a top 4 game. It was insane.
So anyway, that's cool. I just outsider looking in, to me, it looks like a Rogsai and Blue Farm meta. The top 16,
right?
Blue Farm, Rogsai, Kennen, Rogsai, Blue Farm, Bajorna, Warnog, Rogsai, Tivit, Sisay, Krark Thrasios, Rogsai, Blue Farm, Sisay, Blue Farm, Sisay. That's the top 16. So I was like, Oh, that probably was a really fast tournament. But when then you go down here, though, to the 60s, it's like, Teamer Pirates, and you got some, what was that deck? Dargo Tymna. You got Crick. You got a bunch of Sisays, Pantalaza, Narcissist. Yep. So I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Actually, so you go 0-2, right?
And that's exactly what happened. Like my first game, like I'm expecting turbo pods, and there were 2 Mystics, 2 Esper Sentinels, and 2 Ranger Captains on board almost right away. Right. And nobody could do anything. It's just complete lockdown, everyone drawing cards and sitting there. And, it was exactly what I was not prepared for. Expecting Rogsai and lots of wishes for wins, and it just didn't happen. And then the second game, I punted pretty terribly. Like I literally, before I left the tournament, I wrote down, okay, as soon as a Nadu enabler hits the board, stop everything you're doing, cast Jeska, and kill it. Right. Okay. Sure enough, turn 1, Nadu plays an enabler, and I go, oh, that's an enabler. I should kill it right away. And the Nadu player goes, well, how about you don't kill it, and I promise not to cast Nadu next turn. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll cast Tymna then. And that was it. Like he never caught up again. He didn't cast Nadu the next turn. He cast Sylvan Safekeeper so that I couldn't touch his stuff. Right, and I knew this. Like as I'm making the decisions, like I'm watching myself punt, like in slow motion. It's just so rough. And then you go 0-2, and then I was in, next thing I know, I'm seeing Archon of Emeria and Dragolith Magistrate and Dauntless Dismantlers, and it's just ugh. But, I had fun anyway. And the cool thing about these events is like all of us are cool. So afterwards we, jam in the lobby till like 2:00 in the morning. So it was a fun time.
And say that in CDH meta, especially the top players, 95% of like the top players, when I reach out about a deck or when I talk about this or I ask them to get on the pod, everyone's cool and everyone's down with it. So I see what you're saying. Like afterwards, that tournament, man, I could have did better. Let's wait till 2 a.m. Like that's got to be so cool, especially the best players. Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
It's up to you. Like you went 1-5-1. Can you kind of play us like the rounds? Like were you 1-0 and then you lost a couple and then you drew? Can you kind of the players that don't that weren't there?
Yeah,
I'm so curious.
Well, I mean, I gave you the first couple rounds, right? So, what happened the first two, and then the third round, like I said, was an Archon of Emiria game. Well, actually, I think I played it pretty well for the most part, and then, there was a little bit of a window of opportunity where the player who won, which is the Kenrith, sort of, he calls his deck mid range. It's kind of Staxy mid range. Managed to resolve a what's it called? Oh my god, the Wayland Soul Trader. And set up a Warren Soul Trader combo line, and the Blue Farm player, he was sacking Orcish Bowmaster tokens and Orcish Bowmasters and creating treasures and set up a loop. And he had Agatha to do a cost reduction on Kenrith, so it was only costing him, 1 black to do the reanimation, and we couldn't stop it. But the Blue Farm player, one of the top 2 or 3 players in the world, Jorman, had the means to stop it, and he missed his opportunity to stop the combo line. He had the counter magic for the Warren Soul Trader, and he let it resolve, right? So, that was, in that case, it wasn't my misplay that caused the end, but, still, a loss is a loss at that point. After that, my round 4 this was an ugly one. This was against Malcolm Beckford, who's like the best Sisay player on the planet, Ori on Rogsai, and Josh Price, the caveman himself, on Blue Farm. And, grind of a game, got all the way down to time. And there was a Cyclonic Rift that bounced. There was a turn 1 Deafening Silence in this game. Again, the stacks was just real. But Cyclonic Rift bounced everything, and I tell Malcolm, because at this point I'm playing for a draw, I tell Malcolm, you got to replay that Deafening Silence. If you don't play the Deafening Silence, then Blue Farm's going to win. All right, so all right, I'll play the Deafening Silence. Plays the Deafening Silence. Comes around the table to me, and I'm like, I don't remember what card I draw, some kind of tutor. And they're like, oh, I have a silence in my hand. I've got a tutor. I can win the game right now. And I go and I cast my silence into the Deafening Silence. And everyone's like, yep, that resolves. And I'm like, and I go to cast my I don't remember what card it was, another rock or something. And they're like, nope, there's a Deafening Silence. And I'm like, oh, crap. And now I threw away my silence, which is what I needed to force the draw. And instead, Malcolm ended up winning that game. That was juicy punt.
Like, you're right. When you're about to go for it, you're like, oh, yeah, let's go for it. Now it's to the point I don't even go for it. When I untap OP draw, I look at the field. Even though I know it's on the field, I just look. Okay.
Yep.
God, I'll say this out loud. Guys, what stacks do we have? And they're like, uh-oh. I'm like, no, what do we have? Oh, there's a Ristic Study. There's Esper Sentinel. Oh, okay, I'll just do this and pass. Like, I have to say that out loud for myself to remember. And I'm the biggest proponent of, oh, okay, I have this game plan. I have this. And then I top deck and my brain falls off because I'll top deck a One Ring, forget everything else, and then I'll cast the One Ring and he has a known force negation in his hand, and then I'm just cooked, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I knew you had it. All right, I'm out. Like,
it's so bad, dude, so bad.
Like, me and my friends that aren't at your level, we're like, you know what? It's okay to do it because we're gonna learn from it. We're gonna come back.
And I won't do that ever again. I'll tell you that. I am never doing that again.
I'm never doing it again.
Yeah, but it was rough. It was real rough. And then, round 5 was my win. And it was a pretty sweet win. It was an instant speed. So there was a player cast a Grand Abolisher. And while Grand Abolisher was still on the stack, I resolved an Adnaz into put Abdel in the graveyard, Necromancy, animate the Abdel, start a loop. And the opponent had a Dismember, which would have stopped the loop. And I'm like, all right, check this out. I will not continue this loop. Let me do it one time so I can stop this player from winning, and that's it. I'll let Abdel stay in the graveyard after that. He's like, all right, I'm willing to do that much. So Abdel goes and blinks once, flickers of Thelwar Stone, so I get access to white. And then I end the Necromancy loop on a Dockside, but Dockside only made 2 treasures, so it wasn't even that scary. And then I go Silence, and Silence resolves. I go Final Fortune, and I get back to my turn and proceed to at that point I had Savin's Reclamation, I had Animate Dead, I had everything you could possibly want. I just won.
And in your defense, you're in Mardu. Like, I'm sure you didn't have backup. Like, you're not sitting on a force of.
And the thing was, is if he casted Dismember and Abdel fails to loop. I can't cast a silence, and then the blue farm player just wins the game anyway. I mean, I'm an Italian guy too. I play a lot of Italian as well. So, but then I just hate myself.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have been a good choice for that tournament because everybody looks at you and you're like, well, I don't have any interaction. You're the Italian player. It's like, what? No, I'm trying to play too, right? That's why I got off Italian because everyone's like, you're the control player. Hard is to control 3 people and I'm the only one and I'm looking at 3 red players, like non-blue players.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I stopped playing that deck, honestly, is I got tired of the game of chicken. They're like, I'm not going to interact. You interact. No, I'm not going to interact. You interact. We sit there, stand across the table from each other, and then we lose the game. And it just kept happening. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. But yeah, so that was day 1. And then day 2, I played much better on day 2, but by then it was too late. Round 6 ended up in a draw. Grindy, long game. Again, every single pod was great players. That was like the first time I saw Rogsai actually try to do Rogsai things. They played a Turtle and Mystic Remora, and the table was so disciplined, we just did not feed it at all. Right. So
hearing, I think Ristic Study is the bane of my existence. This is the best Magic card ever printed because everyone keeps feeding them cards. That gives me hope for this format.
Yeah. So we were disciplined as hell. We stuck to our guns, did not feed that thing, more than maybe 1 or 2 cards for 5 turns. It was insane. And then, eventually, it just ground to a halt. Godo was in the pod. And they were, doing Godo things. Who were just sitting there counting their mana, like, oh, you have 6. Oh, you have 7. You have 8. Okay, 3 more to go, and then you just win. So, we very disciplined pod. So ended in a draw, which is, at that point, looking at the points totals and the standings, I knew that I was a long shot to have any shot at top 16 already. And if I win the next round and maybe there's an outside shot that somehow 11 points makes it in, but it's pretty unlikely. And the cut ended up being 12 points. So it is what it is. And then
it's 2, 4, and 2. Nor in a normal tournament, they're not like that. If you're not at least 3 wins, you're not in. So I see probably 28 to 22, they all have 2 wins. So that's kind of that's kind of weird seeing that. So even if you are, I think you said you're 1-1 and
1-1-4, 1-1-4-1. Yeah. Wins were hard to get, man, in this tournament. They were so hard.
Everybody, 49 players at least got 1 win. So 50 to 64 didn't. So that's crazy. So that might tell you hey, this is invitational. This is mom and pop shop. Like the winner went 5-3-1, right? So
yes, yeah. And that you got 3 wins in Swiss and 2 wins in the after Swiss. Okay. And then my seventh round was I had a clean, protected, unstoppable turn 3 win in second seed, and my opponent top decked exactly what he needed to win on his turn 3 in first seed. So turn order simulator, unfortunately. Nothing I can do about that. Nothing you can do about that. It just happens.
So, what did it look like? Like on paper, it looks like Rockside. Like what you said. You didn't really see a lot of those decks. 6 or 7 Rockside top 16s and like 3 blue farms. So yeah. So with your perspective, you got 40 first. Your perspective, it was more stacks and it was rock. So I wonder how Rockside just took the tournament over until it got in top. Like there's 2 Rocksides in top.
Well, I think what happened was it was a tale of 2 tournaments. The Rockside players all won early in their pods and then proceeded to face each other for the next few rounds and didn't see all the stacks mess. Whereas everyone who lost those first 2 rounds dropped into the other tournament, if you will, where it was completely different pod composition. I still saw, a sprinkling of Rogsai's in one pod or another, but and I played it, 3 rounds I saw Rogsai, and 2 of those rounds they were in 4th seat and just never did anything. Probably because of the stacks that were in those pods as well. So it was a tale of 2 tournaments, really.
So leaving this tournament, going into say another season or season 2 or however you want to say it, do you think this is a blue farm?
Yeah, and Nadu. I think Nadu's going to become more and more prevalent as well. And it's those 4 decks that are going to make up most of the meta most of the time. Unfortunately, because I don't like the deck at all. I don't like the way it plays. I don't like playing it. I don't like playing against it. But the fact of the matter is, it wins games. So it's a very good deck.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Just for me as a pilot, like, I've played against it a couple times and I've lost once. But for me, it's like, dude, the deck doesn't do anything without the commander. Like, I can game plan for that. Cannon doesn't need the commander. Cannon does so many other things and can explode. With Nadu, like, they're either casting their stuff and then holding back up and then casting the Nadu and then winning. But you see that come a mile away. Right? So,
yeah, you do. You do.
Tournaments like you are, you probably know better than I do. Just me personally, outside looking in, I'm not as scared as Nadu as I am every, Kennen and that and a Tivit. A Tivit's terrifying on the play because they're going to, hold up everything in existence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I think eventually the meta will catch on and deal with Nadu kind of like it dealt with Winota. It's a very similar feel to me. Nadu versus Winota, because it's the same sort of snowballing game plan where if you let it get off the ground, it very quickly gets out of hand and there's nothing you can do to stop it anymore. Nadu is kind of the same way. But, I think even more deterministically than Winota, because Winota gets there, Winota triggers, and you get 3 or 4 Winota triggers and things are pretty ugly. You get one Nadu enabler, and it's like the game snowballs out of nowhere. It gets crazy very, very quickly. If the table is responsible, and they're like, just like we used to say, no Winota triggers, if you say no Nadu enablers and the table is vigilant about keeping them off the board or keeping Nadu off the board, then it's fine. Then that deck is fine. It's when you don't do that, you don't respect it, it gets crazy real quick. Well, and there's the problem, right? Because removal doesn't do shit to Rog side. They don't give a damn about your removal. So you got this like counterbalance between Rog side that doesn't care and Nadu, which requires it, right? And that's difficult.
And I guess too, like, thinking about it, Nadu might be better than Winota because what Winota has? Blue.
Yep.
Nadu has everything Winota has, plus blue, plus card draw, plus,
Yep.
You blink and you gave it 3 characteristic study and they cast a Skook Storm and you're like, oh, we're just dead here.
Yep. Jeez.
Well, like with Krakashima, right? Like that deck I always think is amazing. In my eyes, that'll always be a top deck because the right pilot with Krakashima gets out of hand, but decks like Nadu and Krakashima get really, 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 really popular, kind of like a Kennen. So all these pilots, and you're just watching them play Nadu, and you're like, oh my god, just kill me. You have it.
Yep.
I want to keep going because I have 10 more triggers. You have it. You have the win. Just do it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep.
It's like Krakashima. You don't have to keep looping. Your stupid Jeskas will have 1 million mana, just win. So probably the play patterns is what like annoys me. But I don't mind it. Like, I don't think you should ban it. I don't mind another good deck.
No.
That. That's cool. It's just the players that play that, right?
Yeah. And it also lends itself to politicians, right? Because if everyone's vigilant and takes care of Nadu, then there's no problem, which means it falls on the Nadu pilot to politic their way out of those corners. And try to convince the table that they're not a threat and convince them to leave their stuff alone. And so it lends itself to those kind of players who can make the deck even better, the better they can talk.
It's terrifying. I hate this stupid bird.
Yep.
So let's talk about one of the reasons I'm really excited to talk to you. Let's talk about Tymna Jeska, dude. I feel like it was a really good deck. I think Dylan played it for a while and then it kind of fell off. And I believe you revived it, dude. I really think Tymna Jeska's insane. I probably have 8-9 games with it and it just feels so good. Just for me, it doesn't have blue, but I feel like if I were to take a non-blue deck to a tournament, this would be it. Because it can be turbo. It does have a Ranger Captain. It has a silence effects. It has the board wipes. So can we go? We got about 20 minutes. Can you deep dive us into Tymna Jeska and how to feel in that big ass scary tournament you were just in?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it struggled. It didn't struggle a bit. I struggled a bit in this particular tournament, but I mean, it's felt really strong lately because it's got all of the different angles that I think you want based on what's going on right now. Access to white gives you the ability to have disruption. Both in terms of silences and in terms of things like Blind Obedience, Drenith, these asymmetrical stacks pieces that slow your opponents down without impacting you, right? So you got that, and then you got all of the silences necessary so that you can break open windows when you're playing against Blue Farm in the mid-range hell. You could get your own, major captain into play and crack it and protect your win lines. I also think it's the fact that Jeska's in the command zone means it's really strong removal that you can rely on. So when you're playing against Sisay, which is the other really popular deck right now, I mean, I crush Sisay decks. It's a beautiful thing watching them, go dork Sisay pass, and I'm like, yeah, Jeska, kill all those things, pass. Yep. And I think I'll say this first. So credit to Tymna Jeska has to go to Shiver first. He's really the one who pioneered the turbo style deck that led to where I am. But a lot of that tech was built around Bolas' Citadel and the Goblin Welder and Goblin Engineer package, Oswald and all of these kind of things that frankly are kind of slow right now based on the way the meta is working. But we got the biggest gift I think of all in MH3 with the Chthonian Nightmare, because that gives us that card is so good. The beauty of Chthonian Nightmare, though, is it doesn't just win you the game. It's not just there for a combo with Dockside. You drop the Chthonian Nightmare early, and don't worry about it. It's just there. Yeah, no problem. And then later, you cast your Grand Abolisher. Your opponent's like, Force of Will. And I'm like, Chthonian Nightmare. I get the Grand Abolisher right back. Thank you. That card alone is, in my mind, what made Tymna Jeska appealing again, because we get that extra angle of reanimation line that we really needed. So now we've that deck felt like it was doable again. Plus you got Delny, which amplifies literally every creature in that deck.
I built a Tymna Malcolm deck and it was Delny Secret Commander, and I'm like, what deck would thrive with Delny? It's Tymna Sakashima. It's like, I'll take 12, draw 12, thank you, come again. And they're like, what?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Delny's insane. And that's why I love tutoring for Delny in this deck. It's my favorite. It's everything.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I had a game where I had Lotho, Esper Sentinel, Tymna, and Delny, and I'm like, yeah, I'll swing, draw 6. Yep, I'm gonna make 2 treasures on my second spell, and then I'm gonna draw 2 cards for your first spell. Thanks very much. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's so good. Doubles the Dockside count, so the Chthonian Nightmare loops require less. Right, you only need treasure count to be 3 with Delny. Yep, it's insane.
And I have to talk to you before I forget. There's 2 cards I have to talk to you about in this deck. One is Excellent Neonate. I love this card so much. I cast it every time for some reason. I have it. I don't know who found this butt-ass card, Common Vampire. I love this card. Thank you. I don't know if I'm thanking you, but whoever made up this card in this deck, that card is so good.
Yep. Oh, I'm gonna cast this Imperial Seal. Right? I'm gonna put a Anime Dead on top of my library, and then I'm going to crack my Insolent Neonate and discard my Hoarding Broodlord, draw the Animate Dead, and animate this with the Broodlord. It's like, it's sick. It's so good. It's so good. And it's got Menace, so it's a perfect Tymna attacker. It's super underrated. Super underrated.
It's not the best card on the deck for sure, but if you want like the bench player, the 6th man of the year, I think it's this card. Like every time I cast
absolutely
card, I want to cast it. Oh, look at that stupid 1/1. Don't hit it with Bowmaster. You really gonna hit this vampire? Nah, you're right. I don't need to hit that card. It's okay, cool. Next turn, boop, Vamp Tutor, and they're just like, what? I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep. Card's so good. Yep.
So I wanted to talk to you, personal opinion. I didn't put it in the deck because I thought it was clunky, but after hearing you talk about the deck, we have to talk about the Abdel loot. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Abdel, Anime Dead, and Necromancy. I'm winning without them just fine, but it sounds like you love it.
Oh, yeah. So you're familiar with Woodgorger Dragon, right? Yeah. So the gist of Abdel is with Abdel ETBs, it's got the ability where it will target any number of non-land permanents you control and exile them basically until Abdel leaves the graveyard. And then for each of those permanents, you get to create a 1/1 soldier, right? So that's the simple ability. So what you do is you animate dead, target Abdel ETBs, and you target the animate dead with his ability, which makes the animate dead get exiled. Abdel then dies. Animate dead comes back, brings back Abdel, and starts an infinite loop, which means on the surface, with nothing else, it creates infinite 1/1s, right? Not hasty, but infinite 1/1s. If you have only permanent, not permanent, that produces red, which you can flicker, you can create infinite red mana, which means you can cast Jeska infinite number of times and kill the table. That's the gist of the loop. The beautiful thing about it is it opens up instant speed win lines in the deck because of necromancy. So one of my favorite play patterns is, I get Silence, I get Entomb, and I get Necromancy in hand, those 3 cards specifically. And or alternatively, I have Abdel in my hand and a way to discard it, like Instant Annihilate, for example. And what I do is I wait till a scary opponent is sufficiently scary, and I go, oh, dude, hey, wait, I think we need to silence him. I'm going to cast a Silence. And I go and I cast a Silence. And everyone's like, oh, good, thank you. You stopped him. And I'm like, cool, that resolves. And then I go Entomb, put Abdel in the graveyard, cast Necromancy, start the Abdel loop. And at that point, either I create infinite 1/1s before I go to my turn, or if I have an Orcish Bowmaster in play, I just kill the table. If I have the One Ring in play, I draw until I get an Orcish Bowmaster and kill the table, etc. So it's very, very sneaky way to win, and it gets around a lot of these really ugly board states where, otherwise, you can't go for it on your turn succinctly without getting stopped. Yeah, you just got to get back to your turn. That's always the challenge. But what I found consistently is usually I stop the loop by reanimating someone's Ranger Captain, or reanimating someone's Drenith, or reanimating something that hinders the table, so it's a little more likely to get back to your turn. Yeah,
I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I like a 8-mana combo or a 7-mana combo in an Adnaz deck. It just seemed clunky to me. But now you say it, like, I love the reanimate stuff anyways, a Hoarding Broodlord. I was on Kalia for a while, and I love that. Hey, let me get this Hoarding Broodlord. I win here.
Yeah, exactly. You win instantly. As long as you have either 2 creatures besides the Broodlord, or you have 2 of any color mana, then you win the game, because you go Entomb, reanimate, you get Entomb, reanimate, Broodlord ETBs, you search for Saw in Half, you cast Saw in Half using the Convoke of the Broodlord plus 2 other whatever mana or 2 other creatures. You Saw in Half, you get Burnt Offering, and usually I just get Underworld Breach, and then from there I can Saw in Half again to put the rest of the combo together. Easy peasy. Sure. Yeah, exactly. But you can win from nothing. You don't have to have anything else at all, other than the means to cast and Saw in Half, and you win the game.
I have this deck proxied up with paper. I'm probably gonna make this real after talking to you, for sure. I just want to ask you, just my personal, I don't care if anybody cares but me. I gotta ask you, like, a Boromir, Hopley Gearper, are those cards, are they?
Those cards are broken. They're so good. Because, the biggest challenge right now is how do you crack open windows to go for wins? And Boromir says that if your opponents are tapped out, I just cast a Grand Abolisher, is what it says. And it also says, if I cast it early, I'm playing against Rockside decks, they can't do what they need to do. So it shuts them down, and it can also protect my attempts to win. Hope, you end up with this pretty cool play pattern most of the time where, you can usually tell when one player is holding all of the interaction. So, you have to kind of guess at it and read correctly, but Hope can, silence that one player, and then you combine it with like Orm's Chant or something else, or a couple of pieces of your own interaction to protect your win, and you could get there. But you need those pieces, because if you don't have those pieces, then opening windows becomes much, much more difficult. And you don't want to be just drawing for silence effects. I'm on, let's see, Silence, Render Silent, which is the Flame Scroll Celebrant, Orm's Chant, Grand Abolisher, Ranger Captain. But I also consider Hope and Boromir and Vexing Bauble in that same category, but even more versatile. Turn 1, Hope. Turn 2, Tymna, draw a card. It's a great card. That card is super underestimated.
All right, I believe you. I believe you for sure. Just, when I'm by myself building decks and I see it, and I'm like, nah, I like these couple pet cards, and I'll do this. I got you. And I love NT. NT is insane deck. This is it's probably the spiciest deck in the top 16. Light X. Get out of here. Fucking is that Pioneer?
Yeah, bro. Because I gotta get that. I gotta get Abdul in the graveyard. But somehow, man. You know? It's uncounterable. It's an uncountable way to put Abdul in the graveyard. Right? Well, because it's part of the casting cost. Yeah, I don't care if you counter my Lightning Axe. I did what I needed to do. No, I win. It's great.
I can't imagine just casting that for removal. All right, I'm a 1 mana discard a card, deal 5 damage. And I'm like, oh, that card sucks. Oh, yeah, I know, but normally.
Yep, exactly. And the cards, the whole deck is like I spent a lot of time really optimizing its ability to discard, which is why I'm not running Necropotence, because I really want to be good at discarding in this deck. And the last thing I want to do is discard into exile. Oh, I think it's got some work to do still. I think it can still be improved. I've got a few cards I'm going to be testing in it. I already made some immediate changes to what I was running at the event. I added in Trouble in Paris, which I think this deck wants for those games that get ugly. So I put that back in. Yeah, there's a few other changes. Grinding Station's great. I would not take Grinding Station. Yeah.
I just love this deck, and I want more people. I don't want the format to be like, why aren't you playing blue? Right? Why aren't you playing Blue Farmer Oxide? That's where I don't want this format to go. So it's all the crazy people are horny about the ban stuff. It's like, guys, like, let's talk about it. But I think before we ban a card, let's show some statistics, right? Let's not just, I don't like this card because it makes me mad.
No, it's just fun. This is a fun time. I always like talking about Magic, dude. Anytime.
I feel we can talk.
Easy.
I gotta get you on.
Hell yeah, we can do that, dude. We can definitely do that.
Lost enough that we will believe the hype, right? Like, you're like, oh, okay, top 10 CDH player, yeah, right. And then you win, and they're like, oh, okay.
You're talking luck too much, so I'm gonna go in there and punt. Like, watch me cast the silence and deafening silence again. Watch me just throw it. No, it'll be fun. I'm down for it. Awesome, yeah, man.
I was talking about you punting. I wouldn't.
Oh yeah, no, you could do that. I'm not afraid.
But I appreciate your time. Everyone, listen to his Winning In podcast on YouTube. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but it's really great.
It's on Spotify too. Yeah,
it is on Spotify. I listen to both of them. It's great. I'm trying to set up the video. I'm kind of a boomer when it comes to stuff. But
no, that's it. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me if anyone wants to talk to Tymna Jeska anytime. I'm always down for it. Exactly.
All right, man. Exactly. I appreciate it. You rock, man. And everyone, y'all have a good day. Thanks for listening. See ya.
Thanks, man.